Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/EntitledPeople Stories. Today, we're diving into some Reddit podcast stories with Karen. Am I the jerk for siding with my son instead of my wife after our daughter stole his car? I never thought I'd be here, but my house has been chaos the past couple of weeks. I'm trying to figure out if I really am the bad guy or if I just finally had enough of the nonsense. I have a son, Max, who's 18, from my first marriage. I also have a stepdaughter, Kelly, who's 21, from my wife, Jamie's previous relationship. Together, Jamie and I have a daughter who's 7. We've been married for 8 years, and I've always treated Kelly as one of my own. From the moment Jamie and I blended our families, I made it clear that I would put equal amounts of money aside for Max and Kelly for college, cars, and the big milestones. I grew up dirt poor. First in my family to finish high school, food stamps, barely scraping by. So being able to save for both kids has meant a lot to me. I put away enough that Kelly could live at home and attend a local state school without drowning in debt, and Max has the same cushion. I also put enough aside for each of them to have a car. Nothing fancy, just enough to get something reliable and used. But here's where things start to split. Max's mother, my ex, and her parents also contribute heavily to his life. They bought him a brand new SUV when he turned 16. They cover the insurance, and they've taken him traveling around the world. His mom told him, "Here's a list of 30 colleges I'll pay for. Pick one." And he earned his way into one in California. On top of that, the car from his mom came with a laundry list of conditions: grades, volunteer work, chores, etc. He's held up his end of the deal. Kelly, on the other hand, hasn't had that kind of outside support. Her dad has been in and out of jail and rehab for years. Her grandparents are retired teachers on a fixed income, and Jamie has been a stay-at-home mom. Kelly has always gotten love and support, but the financial side just isn't there. And yes, she's noticed the difference. She's often compared her situation to Max's, and jealousy has simmered under the surface for years. Now, last week, I was out of town for work. Jamie took our youngest to visit her sister. That meant only Max and Kelly were at home. One of Kelly's close friends, Annie, had just turned 21 and gotten engaged. The friend group was in town for a few days before everyone scattered to internships, so they wanted a big night out. Kelly asked to use Max's car so they could all ride together. She said she'd be the designated driver. Max told her no. His car may have been purchased by his mother, but he drives it daily and it's in her name with her paying the insurance. He sets the rules for it. He went to bed around 9:30 as usual. Kelly, apparently not taking no for an answer, waited until he was asleep, grabbed his keys, and left with the car. Around midnight, Max woke up to use the bathroom. He noticed the car was gone. He checked the tracking app, saw where it was parked, grabbed his spare keys, and Ubered to the location. He got in his car and drove it back home. A couple hours later, Kelly called him in a panic. She told him his car had been stolen, and one of her friends was already on the phone with the police. Max told her, "No, it's here at home. I came and got it." Kelly lost it. She asked how she was supposed to get home. He told her that was her problem, hung up, and went back to bed. Here's where it escalated. Kelly doesn't like using ride shares because she had a bad experience once, so she called Jamie crying about being stranded. Jamie immediately called Max, demanding he go back and pick Kelly up. He refused. She called me, furious, and told me to make him go. I said no. Max was right. He had every reason to take his car back. He wasn't her chauffeur. Kelly eventually got home, but it took her an hour of calling around for someone to come pick her up. When Jamie and I returned home a few days later, we sat down for a family talk. Jamie asked both Max and Kelly to apologize to each other. Max flat out refused. He said, "I didn't do anything wrong." Kelly got upset, saying Max gets everything while she gets nothing. That's when I snapped. I told her that if she thinks what Jamie and I have saved and sacrificed for her is nothing, then she doesn't need to take our money for tuition. She can move out if she feels that way. Jamie is furious with me. She says I went too far and that Max should still apologize. I refuse. He was right. He doesn't owe her an apology for stealing his car. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Max doesn't need to apologize because he did nothing wrong. Kelly stole his car. That's not an oops moment. That's theft. You should probably get Max a lockbox for his keys so she can't pull this again. It's wild that your wife agrees Kelly was wrong but still thinks Max should apologize. For what? For not being her Uber driver at 2 a.m.? He saved his own property and didn't involve the cops. Honestly, she should be thanking him. Update. A couple weeks later, things escalated again. Kelly bought a new TV and asked Max if he'd use his car to help her pick it up. Before all of this, Max occasionally let her use his car for errands. But now, he flat out refused. He told her, "No, after what you did, I'm not helping you anymore." Kelly then went to Jamie, hoping to guilt her into forcing Max. But this time, Jamie said, "That's a consequence of your actions. You'll have to figure this out." That didn't go over well. Kelly blew up, called Jamie selfish, and announced she was moving out. She said she didn't need our money. Jamie told her she was being ungrateful, but also said she was free to leave if she felt that way. Jamie is planning to move out by July 1st. So that's where we are now. Max feels vindicated. Jamie is still upset at me, but even she admitted Kelly brought this on herself. Kelly is furious, but she made her choices. I still can't get over the fact that she stole your son's car, then somehow spun it like he was the bad guy. He didn't even call the cops. He just quietly handled it. And she thinks he owes her an apology? Not the jerk then, and not the jerk now. Ask your wife why she didn't just call a taxi or a friend that night. There were so many options besides forcing your son to rescue someone who stole from him. Kelly being uncomfortable with ride shares doesn't make it Max's responsibility. Kelly moving out might actually be the best outcome. She's 21. She needs to learn consequences. If she thinks tuition money and a place to live are nothing, let her see what nothing really looks like. Imagine stealing someone's car and then acting shocked when they don't want to come pick you up. Right? That's not borrowing. That's GTA, Family Edition. Actions have consequences, sweetie. Welcome to adulting. I told my friend why I don't want to date him, and our friends are saying I broke him. Am I the jerk? I'm 21, female. My friend of 10 years, let's call him Mark, 23, male, asked me to meet him for lunch. He told me he had something important to say. We've known each other forever, went to school together, and we have a lot of the same friends, so I didn't think much of it. I had free time, so I went. He was already there when I arrived. We ordered food, chatted about random stuff, and everything felt normal. Then he cleared his throat and started talking in his serious tone. He said, "I don't understand why you're dating your boyfriend when I'm clearly the better match." I asked him what he meant. That's when he launched into this long speech about how he liked me first, how he met me first, and how he's taller, better looking, and more successful, and knows me better than my current boyfriend does. It sounded like he'd been practicing it in the mirror. The thing is, most of what he said wasn't even true. My boyfriend actually works, has his own money. Mark has never worked a real job in his life. His entire lifestyle is paid for by his parents. He brags like he's self-made, but take away his parents' money and he's got nothing. He kept going on about how he's been waiting for me all these years. That's when I asked him if he wanted me to be honest. He said yes. So I told him the truth. I said I would never want to date him because I've seen how he treats his past girlfriends. He ghosts them, lies, acts like they should just wait around for him. I said he's immature, irresponsible, and exhausting. I even told him that's why I had started pulling away from our friendship, because I didn't like the way he treated women in his life. When I was finished, he just went quiet, stood up, and left. Later that evening, our other friends started blowing up my phone asking what I'd done to Mark. Apparently, he'd been sulking, drinking, not telling anyone what happened. I explained the conversation, and they accused me of being harsh and breaking him. But honestly, someone had to tell him. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Edit. I'm overwhelmed in a good way. A lot of your comments made me laugh so hard I woke up my sister's baby. I sent my post to another friend in our group chat, and now they're all laughing too. On a serious note, thank you for the advice about safety. I didn't think of Mark as dangerous, but this whole situation made me realize I may not know him as well as I thought. I blocked Mark everywhere, and I blocked the mutual friends who sided with him. This has been a learning experience. Next time I see red flags in a friendship, I'll distance myself quicker. Not the jerk. Even if you'd liked him a little, Declaring his feelings by insulting your boyfriend was the dumbest move possible. He didn't say one meaningful thing about you. It was all, I'm taller, I'm richer, I met you first. That's not romance, that's just entitlement. And all his bragging is shallow stuff anyway. OP was spot on. He's immature and self-centered. It sounds like he's never had to earn anything. Did he really think you'd say, gee, you're right, let me dump my boyfriend for you? Then he'd probably make you prove yourself to him. Just gross. Why doesn't she like me? I'm literally the most perfect guy. I'm such a nice person. Then OP tells him, actually, you treat women badly. And he spirals into an existential crisis. Classic narcissist move. It's all about him, and somehow you'll still be blamed. Update. So a couple things happened since my original post. After many of you suggested safety precautions, I told my sister and her husband. I live with them for now. We even set up cameras around the house, partly for my sister's baby, but also in case my ex-friends decided to drop by. I also told my boyfriend. A lot of commenters worried about his safety, but don't worry, he's a fit guy and has security at his place. He was more concerned about me than himself. On Friday, he went to a birthday party for one of his friends. Everything was fine until I saw one of Mark's sidekicks, let's call him Ben. He looked right at me, but didn't say anything. I told my boyfriend and we agreed not to let it ruin our night. An hour later, Mark showed up. Of course, he wasn't invited. The birthday girl knows him from school, but she didn't actually ask him to come. He walked over to my boyfriend, stuck out his hand, and said in this fake, cheerful voice, I'm Mark. You remember me, right? And you must be the boyfriend. My boyfriend shook his hand out of politeness. Then Mark said, can I borrow her for a sec? I just want to talk. I immediately told him no. He wouldn't back off. He kept pushing, and when my boyfriend told him again to leave, Mark actually reached out to grab my hand. That was the last straw. My boyfriend shoved him back. Mark tried to square up, and my boyfriend punched him. Security rushed over, dragged Mark out while he was yelling, and that was the end of it. We explained to the birthday girl what had happened, and then we left. The next day, a video started going around. Someone had filmed Mark being dragged out by security while people laughed in the background. One of Mark's ex-girlfriends even sent it to me with the message, serves him right. So that's where we're at. It's been quiet since, but knowing Mark, I doubt he's done. My boyfriend isn't violent at all, but Mark had it coming. Honestly, if it hadn't been my boyfriend, someone else would have eventually put him in his place. You set boundaries and Mark refused to respect them. Your boyfriend stepped in when Mark tried to grab you. That's called protecting your partner. Totally normal, not the jerk. The fact that security didn't haul your boyfriend off too says it all. They knew who the problem was, and it wasn't him. Mark wasn't even invited, so he basically crashed a party just to harass you. Embarrassing. This guy is unhinged. He really thought he could just walk up to your boyfriend and borrow you? That shows he has zero respect for you. He needs therapy, but instead he got himself publicly humiliated. Hopefully people start distancing themselves because he sounds like pure drama. Mark really thought I liked you first was a solid argument. Yeah, like calling dibs on a human being. Then trying to drag her out of a party on top of it? He didn't lose the girl, he lost the plot. Am I the jerk if I asked my sister to leave my house since she refuses to watch my kids? So here's the situation. I'm 27 female and married to my husband who's 32, and we've got 2 kids. My oldest is 11 and my youngest is 2. About 2 years ago, my little sister, who was 20 at the time, moved in with us. She'll be 22 next month. When she came to live with us, it was supposed to be temporary. She had just gotten out of a really bad relationship and needed somewhere safe to land. At the time, I thought it would be a win-win. She'd have a roof over her head, a fresh start, and I'd have someone to help with the kids. The deal we made was simple. I'd pay her $200 a week to watch my baby from 6:30 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. She could also use my car whenever she needed it. She said she wanted to get an afternoon job, and I was completely fine with that. Honestly, it sounded perfect to both of us at the start. But after just a month, she told me she was getting depressed from being inside with the baby all day. She said she couldn't do it anymore. I told her I understood and that her mental health mattered more than anything. I even said she didn't have to watch him every day, but she could still help us out here and there. Like if my husband and I wanted a date night, she could step in. I went out and found other childcare so she wouldn't feel trapped. Fast forward 2 years. She works a full-time job now. She doesn't pay a single bill. She doesn't clean up, doesn't cook, doesn't buy groceries. She doesn't even take the trash out. Nothing. My husband and I cover every single thing in the house. Meanwhile, she's living rent-free and driving my car whenever she wants, usually to see her boyfriend or go to work. Last week, my husband and I planned a night out. We had asked her the weekend before if she could watch the kids, and she said yes. Everything seemed fine, but within an hour of us leaving, she sent me this long text. I just want to say this to get it off my chest. This isn't an attack, and it's not me being ungrateful. I just want you guys to try and consider my point of view. I don't appreciate being used as a service whenever it's convenient for you. I understand this is all I'm good for, but there are some days where I don't want to come home after a 9-hour shift and watch a baby. I didn't decide to have children, you guys did. The only person who thanked me is your husband. It's been building up inside me and causing resentment that my own sister won't recognize my accomplishments because it's what I'm supposed to do. I appreciate staying here rent-free, but I don't feel like I should dedicate my life to you guys. It's like I'm being asked to watch the kids as if it's a given and not something I can say no to. When I do say no, I'm treated like Voldemort. I felt like the time frame should have been discussed because I thought I was watching him until 6:30, not 9:30. Thank you for reading this. I read that, and honestly, I was floored. Because at this point, all we ask of her is to watch the kids maybe once or twice a week, and it's never last minute. That's it. That's her entire contribution to living here. And when she mentioned her accomplishments, she was talking about finally getting her high school diploma at 21. She had dropped out just before graduating and went back later. I never judged her for it, but to me, it wasn't some big excuse to sit around and refuse to help. Now I'm just done. My husband says I need to handle this since she's my sister. He's tired of taking care of another adult who refuses to act like one. So I'm wondering, would I be the jerk if I asked her to leave my house since she refuses to watch the kids when needed? Not the jerk. This arrangement isn't working anymore. Living rent-free for 2 years while working full-time means she should have savings by now. If she doesn't, that's on her. Give her written notice to vacate, however much time your state requires, because she's considered a tenant at this point. Not the jerk. She's enjoyed your generosity long enough. Don't frame this as punishment. Just say you are glad to help her get on her feet, but since she's feeling used, you'll give her 2 months to find her own place. Put it in writing and don't go back and forth with her. She doesn't deserve your energy. Update. So many people commented on my last post, and it honestly helped me make my decision I needed to. I set my sister down a couple days after she sent that text. I started by apologizing for not showing appreciation and for making her feel like she was being used. I told her that watching the kids once or twice a week was the only way she was contributing to the household, and that wasn't an attack, it was just the truth. She immediately blew up, yelling that I was attacking her and that I only took her in to benefit myself, not to help her. I reminded her that the original deal we made was supposed to benefit both of us. She had a safe home, food, utilities, a car to use, everything covered. In return, she'd help with childcare. That was the arrangement. I told her straight up that this living arrangement isn't working anymore. Since she doesn't want to watch the kids, she has 60 days to find a new place to live. She tried to backpedal and say she never said she wouldn't help with the kids, but I cut her off. I told her that as her older sister, I don't want to ruin our relationship. I'd rather give her space to grow and figure out her own life than have us constantly fighting in my house. I even told her I was sorry for treating her like my own child. I thought I was helping by including her in vacations, covering every expense, taking care of everything for her. But now I see that maybe I was holding her back. I told her she has an opportunity now to build the life she wants. We live in San Diego, where rent for a 1-bedroom is at least $2,000. I don't know how she'll manage it, but she's got a full-time job, and now she'll have to face reality. When I finished, she started crying and said she didn't mean for things to go this far. I told her it was too late and that everyone needs to move on. She's had a sweet deal for 2 years that most people her age would dream of. You gave her free housing in San Diego, free food, and even access to your car. All you asked for in return was to babysit once or twice a week, with notice. That's not being used, that's called contributing. Her crying wasn't about feeling bad, it was about realizing she can't coast anymore. You did the right thing giving her 60 days. This was the perfect response. Rent alone is going to eat most of her paycheck, and she'll realize real fast how good she had it with you. She'll have to face the real world and start enjoying the independent life she's been asking for. She's in for the rudest awakening of her life. Don't cave. The text she sent you was ridiculous. That was such a good deal, and she acted like she was trapped? I wish someone had offered me something like that. Congrats, OP. You're about to get your house and your peace back, just in time for the holidays. Can we talk about the audacity? OP's sister is basically living like she's in a free Airbnb with unlimited snacks, and she has the nerve to say she's being used? Exactly. Babysitting twice a week isn't slavery. That's literally called being part of a household. If that's her idea of suffering, she's not ready for the real world. Rent in San Diego is a horror movie. Coming soon, sister versus first utility bill. Spoiler alert, she doesn't make it. Am I the jerk after cutting off my sister after how she behaved during my wedding weekend? Hi all, maid of honor, 27 female here, posting on behalf of the bride who's 30. She doesn't use Reddit, but wanted to hear everyone's perspective on this. We had joked for months about how wild it would be if her wedding ended up on Reddit. Well, here we are. For context, the bride, who's 30, just married the groom, who's 33, last weekend. They're off now on a no-signal staycation in the English countryside, finally breathing after all the chaos. I'm her maid of honor, also her sister-in-law. Originally, her best friend was meant to be the maid of honor, but she flaked in dramatic fashion, trying to hog attention. Bride asked me to step in, and I happily did. Her sister, we'll call her Kat, who's 27, was one of the bridesmaids. The bride and Kat had only recently started speaking again after 6 years of estrangement. Things had been civil, but tense. Kat has a 9-year-old daughter, Tilly, who came along as well. The night before the wedding was meant to be easygoing. A girls' night in. Trashy movies, pizza, nail polish out on the table. It was me, the bride, Kat, and Tilly, and the bridesman, Kai. Everyone else had their own plans, so it was our little crew. From the second Kat walked in, she killed the mood. She arrived bundled in her coat, sat herself by the window, lit up her vape, and scrolled her phone non-stop. While the rest of us were laughing and making the bride feel special, she muttered about some coworker nobody knew. It was like she was daring us to ask questions so she could complain. Later that night, the water cut out. Total nightmare timing, but the bride's brother came through and drove Kat and Tilly to his house so they could shower. They came back, and instead of a thank you or a hello, Kat announced she had been invited to stay somewhere else but chose not to, so as not to annoy the bride. The way she said it, like she had done us this grand favor. She then complained about the pizza being late, even though she was the one who told us when to order. She snapped that Tilly needed to go to bed, which was rich considering she had just spent half an hour vaping by the window and ignoring everyone. When it came time to sleep, Kat and Tilly took the bride's bed. That meant the bride had to curl up on the sofa the night before her own wedding. She had planned to bunk in with her sister and niece, but decided it was better to avoid the drama. I offered her my pullout, but she refused, saying she didn't want me uncomfortable. She even joked she'd wrestle me if I tried. That's just who she is, always putting herself second. The morning of the wedding started on a high. I ran out early and brought back pastries and coffee from a bakery the bride loves. We all ate together, but then Kat unraveled again. She couldn't get Tilly ready. She said the curling iron wasn't working, then that she didn't know how to paint nails. Every 5 minutes it was another complaint. Finally, the bride, on her wedding morning, ended up curling Tilly's hair, painting her nails, and helping her into her dress. She never complained, but watching her fuss over her niece instead of relaxing and being spoiled broke my heart. The bride then asked Kat to carry some food platters to her brother's car. Kat came back saying the brother was fuming. He wasn't. He had been fine. But it rattled the bride, who finally snapped at her sister. That set the tone. Kat sulked. She refused to get dressed with us, so she missed all the group prep photos. She changed alone in the bathroom. She even slipped on the bride's shoes without asking, then later fell down some stairs in them and had the nerve to yell at the bride. During the ceremony and reception, she kept bringing up the bride's dad, who had chosen not to attend. She made a point of whispering about how many people didn't show, and at one point, she actually went around asking guests if they felt uncomfortable that the bride was sitting downstairs to stay cool in her heavy gown. The bride asked her to stop, but Kat doubled down, bringing up that their dad had once paid for Tilly's hospital bill, but couldn't even be bothered to show up for the bride. The bride just sat there, blindsided. On her wedding day, her own sister dragged her pain out like a weapon. Meanwhile, the most touching moment of the day was the groom's father walking the bride down the aisle. They were both in tears. The bride told me later that she had never felt so loved and accepted. It was pure family, the kind she had built for herself. When the night wound down, Kat gave one last jab. She didn't hug her sister or look her in the eye. She stood behind an aunt, turned her back, and muttered a quick "bye" over her shoulder. It was like a final insult, making sure the bride went home hurt. The next morning, the bride got a text from Kat saying she felt uncomfortable staying at their house to watch the animals. She accused the bride of pandering to me because we had spent time together at the wedding. She refused to return the house keys directly and threatened to give them to their estranged mother instead. She then demanded all photos of her and Tilly be scrubbed from social media and even asked for compensation for money she'd spent on the bride's birthday and gift. The bride calmly told her she'd honor the request about photos. She reminded her sister that she had already covered dresses, hair, makeup, and travel. Suddenly, Kat backtracked, offering to watch the animals again. The bride and groom told Kat they were no longer going away and were staying home due to the situation, hoping to stop Kat from breaking in and stealing anything, which they wouldn't doubt that she would do. At this point, the bride and groom have now had their locks changed. I'm now helping the groom's mom look after the animals until they get back. Right now, the bride feels guilty for cutting off her sister again, but she also knows she can't keep exposing herself to that kind of cruelty. Sorry for the long post, but I wanted to get all the details in. What do you think? Not the jerk. Family doesn't mean you get a free pass to treat someone like garbage. Bride's sister hijacked her bed, dumped her kid on the bride, dragged up family trauma on the one day that should have been about joy. That's sabotage. She's jealous, bitter, and trying to drag the bride down because she found happiness and she hasn't. Bride should cut her off and protect her peace. Cutting her off doesn't make you cruel, it makes you sane. You gave her chance after chance, and she still found ways to make your wedding about her grudges and misery. Weddings bring out people's true colors, and hers are flashing neon red flags. Honestly, Lady is way more zen than me. If I'd had to put up with that level of mistreatment on my wedding day, I'd be spending my wedding night in a cell. This wasn't just one or two awkward slip-ups. Kat spent the whole weekend sulking, stirring the pot, and reminding the bride her family was broken. If she feels guilty, remember this. Kat almost made bride and groom cancel their honeymoon because they were scared she'd break in. That's not just toxic, that's dangerous. And that's all the clarity that she needs. That's gotta be one of the wildest wedding stories we've ever read. When someone in your life treats you that way, the only right decision is to cut them off completely. Exactly. Once you completely cut all contact with somebody in your life, it's basically like they don't even exist anymore. Am I the jerk for canceling all of our streaming services to hire a housekeeper without asking my husband first? I'm 28, female. My husband, who's 30, and I just welcomed our first baby almost 3 months ago. Understandably, it's been a huge adjustment for both of us. She's still not sleeping through the night, and we're both back to work full-time. We've always split household responsibilities 50-50, just helping where needed, and it's always worked out well. Lately, my husband has been doing the chores poorly, and I've had to go behind him to fix things or clean them again. For example, he cleaned the bottles the other night, but they were so poorly cleaned that I had to redo them. He dropped pump parts down the disposal and then ran it, ruining them. Several clothes weren't cleaned after a blowout and are now ruined. There are more instances like this. I've confronted him a few times, letting him know that we all make mistakes, and I understand we're both tired, but it feels like he's not even trying. He just keeps saying that he's exhausted and struggling with working, taking care of the house, and caring for the baby. I do sympathize, as I'm also working, pumping, recovering, and taking care of the house and baby. The final straw for me was when he told me to go to sleep while he put up the milk I just pumped and finished the dishes. I was so grateful until I woke up and realized the milk had been left on the counter and was no longer good. He apologized, saying he had put on a show to relax before doing the dishes and fell asleep. The next day, I decided to cancel all of our streaming services, PlayStation Plus, and theme park passes in order to hire a housekeeper. I figured if he's too tired to do basic household chores, then a housekeeper is necessary. If he's too tired to put the milk away, then he's too tired to play video games or go to a theme park. We still have cable, PlayStation games, and can do other activities outside of the local theme park. He blew up at me, saying I had no right to do that and was furious. I thought I was doing us a favor so we could get more sleep and not worry as much about household tasks. So, am I the jerk for hiring a housekeeper without asking? Edit. I see a lot of comments about communication. I have been communicating non-stop about my needs and expectations. I've let a lot of mistakes slide because I know this is hard for both of us, but when it became a daily thing, I let him know if he's unable to do his part, then I need additional help. I mentioned hiring help, and he laughed and said, "What a ridiculous waste of money." I knew if I asked again, the answer would be no, so I made the decision for both of us. Also, I didn't throw away the TV or PlayStation, I just canceled our subscriptions. We were paying around $100 between the two. Our internet includes a handful of cable channels and Peacock, and we have plenty of PlayStation games that we can still play. We both play video games and watch TV. I probably watch more on streaming, so canceling them affects both of us. Housekeeping is $300 a month, and everything I canceled, including Disney passes, is almost $230, so it won't be as much of a financial burden. Wait, did you cancel these things in order to afford the cleaner service, or did you cancel it because you think it's taking up time? OP, from someone who went through this with twins, what you're going through is normal when the babies come home. It's exhaustion, depression, etc. I did eventually get a nanny after my wife kept asking for one. What you have to realize is that not everyone can handle being sleep deprived the same way. In my household, it was the opposite. I'm used to operating with less sleep due to work. My wife isn't. You have two zombies walking around and annoying each other, and the infant doesn't help. You should have discussed this as a couple and came to this decision together. Canceling everything was a power move to punish him for making mistakes. If it wasn't, why did you just do it without talking it out first? I gave into a nanny even though I didn't think we needed it. But at the end of the day, it was for the sanity of my wife. You have to work as a team. Get through the next 6 months somehow, and you'll be golden. Edit. You're the jerk. Sorry. Imagine your sister is 6 months pregnant, her nightmare boyfriend kicks her out, and she demands to live with you. Only problem is, she's totally lazy and wants everything handed to her. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Come have a listen. Karen and I are already waiting for you. See you soon.